Caitlin was kind enough to share the thumbnail of the agenda for tonight. I spoke with Ira earlier, and we just wanted to do a little bit of administrative stuff at the start. For those that have not yet put in their preferences for which groups they wish to be assigned to, and there are 1 or 2 people that we're still waiting on. If you could get that in, that would be great. If you have no preference, that's fine too, but we just need to know one way or the other. Our goals for tonight are to review the legal and logistical requirements of the CMIS, how we are supposed to post the agenda, stream meetings, the deadline for our report, the social media policy, including internal and external communications, and any statement made on behalf of the commission. And then we're going to talk about the forming of the working groups, and then any new business or anything that anyone wants to bring up for any reason. If you want to speak, I will try and keep an eye out for lines, but it's a little tough to do because I can only see so many of you here. I can adjust my view, I suppose. That's better. Just to start things off, I believe, if I recall correctly, we had exchanged emails back and forth. Just as far as how we're supposed to post the agenda for the meetings. I'm not sure if you saw the email from Ira earlier. I didn't recall seeing a finalized agenda come out for this meeting. I don't think that anyone else did as well. I believe we are supposed to post that, right? Jess?
So for the public meeting notice, I do put the agenda in the public meeting notice. But as far as sending out the agenda, that would be the secretary. She did send them to, I believe, you and me.
I know we saw the basic, but I thought there were some additions later on to that. Caitlin, was there anything added to what you had sent out at the start? I know you sent us an email with a whole.
Not really. Not really. Everything that you see
Cool.
Should fit in today. So I'll very shortly, if we want to have something set in the agenda, my practice will be to kind of set the agenda for the following meeting at the immediate close of like today's meeting. So in the next day or two, if there's something that we don't talk about in the meeting that you want on the next one, let me know.
Sure.
I can send that to Jessica, and then we'll tack this on to, we'll talk about this a little bit more later about how we all talk together. I'd be happy to send this out to a whole group if we
once we set up a way to sort of share agree on a way to share things back and forth beyond just email, I think it'll be a lot smoother. I know that's one of the things that we had looked at. So we can post Jess will post the agenda as part of the meeting list itself. And Jess, you handle the streaming of the meetings, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Great. Any questions about the first 2 items we have, the posting or the streaming, from anybody? Okay. The deadline for our preliminary report. Ira, if I recall correctly from the legislation, it was 120
days. Yes, from the initial configuration of the commission.
Okay, so not from our first meeting, but from when they first said, okay, you people are on it.
Correct.
Okay, that cuts down our time a little bit. So we really have to get things moving.
Do we know?
Hey, Diana.
We know what that is.
Well, we actually don't. We can backtrack from it. I know they selected people, I believe, back in September
25th or 24th, something like that. But we can confirm it.
Yeah. So it would be 120 days from there. So 31. probably about mid-Jan, so I'd say mid-January is where we're looking now for the release of the preliminary report. I'll get the exact date once we put the calendar up. Social media policy. You know, I know that Ira's thoughts on this and the official stances, and I tend to agree. It's important that the commission speak with one voice to the greatest extent that we can. You know, certainly if you want to say, hey, I know I'm pleased that I'm on that I now serve, that kind of thing is fine. But I do think that if it's a pronouncement from the commission, it should come from the commission or from the chair, which would be Ira. Or if he needed me to, it would come through me, or we could route it through Jess. I mean, I don't know if there's some Jess or Luke, there's a way that could go out through the city site, would probably be best. Certainly we'll all get questions from people that we know that are out in the community. We expect that. And I think at certain points, we're going to want the people on the commission itself to reach out to things like neighborhood groups, organizations, and you will be and in that role you would be the rep for the commission for the commission itself. But I think we need to be very careful that any message that we send out really is speaking for the entire group. Or at least, you know, we have a hands up. People are entitled to their opinion, but as the commission, we should speak with one voice, and that voice, I believe, should be our chair, which would be Ira. Does anyone have any thoughts, different opinions? Because right now it's just us making these decisions. Okay, do we?
Yeah, Craig, I think that makes sense. I mean, I would just, you know, caution too much saying that we're, you know, thinking and talking as one body, since we all are, you know, our own representatives, and I'm sure we're bound to have differing opinions at some point.
Yeah.
So, you know, I get what you're saying, but also, you know, maybe frame it.
It's just official communications, official stuff that comes out of the committee or the working groups.
Right. You're entitled to express your opinions, or anyone else is at any point. That's as long as you say, well, speaking for myself, I think this, that's fine. But if you're saying, well, on behalf of the commission, we think this, that's a different, you know, different category of thing. But yeah, no, people, I tend to err on the side and of better that you speak your mind freely. That's what we're here for, speak things from each other. But I think the concern that Ira had expressed via email was legit for anything claiming to be on behalf of the full group, of course. And we would talk about it internally before it went out, of course.
I would also suggest that any media requests, because I've gotten a couple and I keep kind of pushing them to you both.
Right.
I think any official media requests should be done through the chairs and not
Totally agree.
on your own. You know, I think that's important, because some of us in our positions have to do media and we may get asked questions. I try to be kind of vague. And whenever I get asked directly, I've gotten asked by one person, it's actually two people in particular, and I keep just saying, you want to talk to the chairs of the committee.
Yeah.
I'm talking about broadband until I'm blue in the face, but I don't want to talk about the work of the commission, and, you know,
Right.
I'm not the spokesperson.
Right. I think that makes sense. I think, Scott, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I had one reporter reach out to me and I said, you need to talk to the chair, which is the same thing. You know, I think that's just courtesy. And they were very good about it. So, well, we'll follow up with them. Okay, great. So, you know, this is a town where we all know it's a 24-hour news cycle, especially on anything that like this, that is a major project that is a major project for the city. So,
And our consensus will be in terms of communication, whatever this group decides.
Right.
It's not just the chair, but it's what the group decides that the chair should be able to say. So
That makes sense. Okay.
Now, question, Ira, Craig, if I could ask a question on that.
Sure.
Do we have plans for any kind of official social media group that we can put out statements from?
good
That is a
question.
good question.
We'll circle back.
That can put that out.
Yeah, we'll circle back with Jessica just to kind of figure out how we might do that. But if you guys have some ideas about that, that would be great.
Sure.
But Jessica's our resource person. So we want to make sure that if we need to create something like that, it goes through her or so forth.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered really D and E on the list that Jess sent out. Let's move down to the forming of the working groups. Just want to, for my own sake.
So let me just mention, greatly appreciated everybody that responded. Very helpful. We'll try to get folks into their first and second priorities, when and where possible. We need 100% participation here from everyone because there's a lot to be done. And, as we form these groups, I'm hoping that the email that I sent out was kind of clear, 2 people on each category, and each person would be working on at least 2 categories, right? So that this way you have some level of accountability to one another. And if things are, to help things facilitate a little quicker. Obviously, some of us have expertise in multiple areas. So if anyone wants to lend their expertise in other areas, that would be great. But on an official basis, where our responsibilities lie is really how we tried to create this matrix. The matrix is not 100% done, but as soon as it is, we'd like to get that done ASAP. So if there's anyone who hasn't said, I'm interested in category A, B, or C, or whatever the category may be, please get that back to us as soon as possible so that we can have this available for the next meeting, for our next public meeting. Okay.
I think
That seemed like a reasonable approach to have helping some of these things come along.
I think so. We all on
I
board
think
with
so.
that?
Ira, do we imagine these working groups will have a written product at some
Right. We will use this as a written product.
point? And if
I'm sorry.
so, what's the expectation for the working
Yeah.
group to produce, and when would it need to be?
Yeah. So as soon as we get that, I really haven't decided that, but obviously we need to get it done prior to the 120 days so that we can compile things. And if there's, one of the things I'd like to see if people are having issues or problems or, identifying resources where they can go, that we kind of figure that out early on. This commission is not funded. It doesn't have a funding mechanism like other commissions oftentimes do. So if there are resources that people need outside what's available, which is zero, that you come to me and we'll discuss that with Jess. But specifically, we should probably be as early as we can. If we could be done in 90, 100 days, that would be great. That would give us everyone a chance to see what the product is going to look like. I didn't say this to Craig, but Craig and I will probably compile the first, the first draft of it and give us some working time to make sure that it meets all the standards and all the milestones and all the categories that we have to meet. But we're also here as a resource for you guys. At least that's how I see my role. If there are areas that, that we need to kind of help folks with. But the earlier we get it done, and I think 90 to 100 days is reasonable because that gives us at least another few days to kind of, if there are any shortcomings or things that we can fill those gaps.
So I'm just doing quick math. I'm sorry, Craig.
No,
So
okay.
90 days from the 25th would be December 24th. So maybe just propose like a loose, perhaps December 1 is a good date, or December 10, like early December for working group documents. So you have through the end of the calendar year.
Sure, we can. That'd be fine.
Yeah, let's look at that.
Yeah.
The other reason that we want to finish a little bit early, I mean, you did sort of touch on that, Ira, is that if we share this report with the mayor and the common council, they may come back with questions that we hadn't thought of, that they would like us to do a little more research on, and that would give us that cushion to sort of wrap that in.
Yeah. And again, remember, this is the preliminary, so we still have another 150 days to
Right.
to kind of get
It would just allow us to get ahead of the curve, which would be nice.
all right.
A nice place to be.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing which we had thought about, as Ira said, there is no money set aside for the work of the commission itself. That said, we don't expect people to go out of pocket for things. If we need to approach through the council, through the mayor for funds for specific things that the commission finds, hey, we need to buy this block of data, or we need to get this type of resource. There are mechanisms that they can use to allocate those funds, but it would be the kind of thing we would need to think about and vote on as a group, I would suspect, first before making the ask. I know this is high enough on the agenda that, especially this year, for different reasons, we would be likely to be approved for, provided that we can show a good faith basis for why it's needed. Plane trips to Bermuda, not so much, but data certainly. So that said, new business. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, and I know I talked to Ira a little bit about this before. Josh, you made a very nice offer within the email thread on the groups. And I don't know if you've all seen it. I would hope that you had. It sounded like it might be a very useful thing for us to have. Josh, do you want to speak a little bit about that, and then we can let the group decide?
Yeah, sure. So for anyone that didn't see, because I think category G was kind of if there was anything else that we thought might be useful. So I work as a planner, and a lot of my work is doing demographic analysis of cities and towns around the region. So I look at like the makeup of the population, income data, race data, stuff like that. So I thought maybe it could be useful to maybe do kind of a general demographic overview of the city of Albany, and we can kind of identify different areas that we think might have problems with access, or that we might want to focus on, or areas that might be underserved. So just kind of a general demographic overview. And I can make we have a lot of mapping software that we could use, and I can make like a lot of nice graphs and stuff that'll just be visually nice and easy to understand.
Great. Just my 2 cents on this. I did bring this up the last meeting a little bit. There is a current rule. It's the preliminary rule from the U.S. Department of the Treasury. That's placed a limit on how the federal relief funds can be used for broadband. Right now, they're saying it's only for those areas that are unserved, and they've identified that no city is considered to be unserved, only rural areas. There's a large push going on for them to expand that within the final rule for a needs-based approach as well. So, dealing with people that are lower income, deprived populations, so that would allow cities back in. And I think if we were to suggest the city apply for those funds, the kind of thing that Josh is talking about would be a very valuable piece of that. Would be a very valuable piece of that request. So we could clearly clearly show those areas that met the criteria. So it would be something too that we could use that the city administration and that the different delegations could use as part of a request to the federal government to say, listen, this is what the broadband portion of this was really meant for. Clearly there's a need. Here's proof given this example. you know, and as the cap city for one of the bigger states, it might get a little more attention. So that's just my two cents on that. Does anyone have any questions for Josh or any thoughts on this? At this
Excellent idea. It's an excellent idea, Josh. Thank you for stepping up to do that.
Okay.
Uh,
So.
Danya.
Yep.
Danya, are you there? She's muted.
Oh, Brianna? Oh, you said
I can't see. First of all, I don't even have my glasses, nor can I speak, nor do I have my glasses, so I can't. But you did mention something in an email in reference to platforms.
Yes.
For communication. So I wanted you to just, share your thoughts with the group on that. And I think Jessica and I had a preliminary conversation, but in case everyone wasn't aware, just in terms of us being able to communicate, you mentioned a few things that were free, a few things that were costly. So I'll let you take the floor on that.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, since it's been initiated by city personnel, our main form of communication has been emails, and the email addresses are okay. But as far as, like once we actually start collecting and compiling information, I do believe it can become a little bit more cumbersome for reference. So I thought about like the platform, Google Sites, or there's Slack. I'm not sure if anyone would be interested and open to actually try those platforms, or if that's something that we would have to just do on our own of a free account or so.
So I think because we're an unfunded entity, we'd have to probably go with something that's free. After speaking with Jessica, I think it's okay. I mean, most people are familiar with the Google platform.
Okay, yes.
And it is free. And maybe that makes sense for us to start there.
Okay, and it will most likely be self-managed. If you like, I can create an account, or if you like it to go through Jessica or Luke, whatever your preference would be.
Yeah, we can also make a page on the public website to post documents. That's pretty easily. I have access to that, and I can talk to Sarah. She usually runs the website. I don't think she would have a problem with us creating a dedicated page. That would be good for reference in terms of communication. Something like Slack, like that was brought up, or something in that realm, could also work as well for internal communication. But in terms of posting documents and reference materials, I believe a page on the public website would be very easy.
So for the city website, I believe the web service that it's hosted on is Civic Plus. Does Civic Plus require like authentication with a login if we did wanted to use it for just internal use?
In terms of posting documents with authentication for internal communication on the public website?
Yeah, unpublished, just like internal, like access privileged users.
I mean, that is something you could do. It's not what it's built for.
Oh,
Not
okay.
really.
Yeah. So can I just interrupt? As when we're actually working on documents, I think Google Docs is probably the cheapest and best way to go, so that there's collaboration. Everyone has access to that. There's no special requirement other than us creating it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is, posting documents is a lot different than having a place where we can all work on documents. So I just put a vote for Google Docs in terms of a platform for facilitating the work as a group. If other people have other suggestions, that would be great as well.
I agree with that.
Martin? Yep.
Hi. My only, kind of caveat with that is that, if we are going to use any sort of like file sharing website, I would rather, it, be done, through like the City of Albany system, only because, just for purposes, in case someone, wanted access to like, the research that they wanted to do, whether through a FOIL request or something, that, it would be right through the city would have like access to it.
let me speak to that just a second. I think Jess, if you were to set that up basically as part of the city of Albany's administrative services, the owner of it, quote unquote, would be the city of Albany, and you could invite us all to access and edit there. I had expressed that concern with Ira when we spoke about it earlier, saying, well, what if we get a FOIL request? You know, the city needs to be able to produce the diet, needs to be able to produce the material. So I think if Jess were to create the Google Docs site for our group, technically that would give the legal protection for the access, so that they would be able, she would be able on behalf of the city to access those forms and those draft reports. Jess, can you speak to that a little bit? Would that work?
Yeah, I believe that would work. I definitely wouldn't mind at all setting up a Gmail account for you guys, and then I could, if that is what you guys decide, I could call Ira, give him the username and password. And then for the future, like you said, if we get any FOIL requests or anything like that, we would also have access to that account. So I don't think that would be a problem.
Excellent. Martin,
Great.
would that satisfy the concerns you had as far as that goes?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to
I'd like to add, I think we should have we should have a Google group or something that works like a list.
Yes.
Or if it's quite haphazard the way we're dealing with email right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I believe that is one of the things that is available through the Google, well, through Google. They have the sites as well as docs, as well as it's a whole series of choices. So I think once we create the account, it would be able to create that kind of list, so we could text back and forth, and it would keep a record of what was said and how that went. I've used that with the college, so it's worked out pretty well.
That's awesome. That would be beautiful. Yeah.
Any objection by anyone to that?
Okay, here.
Thanks much. Thank you.
Okay, let's proceed with that. All right.
Can I add, very important, that we need a cool name?
Yes. I think that's
She's
true.
right.
All right. I think we got to come up with that. Certainly, we'll take we're more than willing to take suggestions on that. All right. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to bring up? We're well ahead of our planned time slots here, and we're into new business. Does anyone realize that a lot of you are muted? So if you do have anything, you'll need to unmute.
I'll add one more. So we actually have nothing that we've acted on as a committee yet in terms of making motions and seconds and voting, but I would like to ask that we agree that we can take action as a commission by email. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I would like to make it very explicit in our meeting, when there's no time sensitivity, that this group will agree to just make motions, second them, and approve them in writing by email in addition to in person.
Caitlin,
Sorry, Scott, what?
I think we need to check with legal on that, only because the library trustees can't do it. So, and the committees can't do it. Nonprofits can follow that, but I think under open meeting law, since we're a commission, we may have to do all voting in open session. Hopefully you're right. I'm just raising a concern. So we might want to reach out to legal reps and just make sure that we as a commission can do that.
Right. I think the only way around that, technically, it's, well, sort of vague-ish.
Usually you ratify in person after the fact.
Right. You can do that, or you can empower the chair to act based on a consensus of the group between meetings. Now, that's an official way around things, with the understanding that anything substantive would still have to come before the full group.
Let's defer to legal before we take,
I think that makes sense. Because we want to be on the right page.
Yeah. I like the idea of, public meetings and being public and doing it, even if, I don't want to do a workaround, and I certainly don't want more power, so.
Right,
Just
full,
to be clear.
full transparency is best, but the question is how to achieve that and still move things ahead.
Sure.
I think decisions within working groups are different because those are subgroups that don't necessarily hold a lot of meetings like this. But the full commission, yeah, probably gray area.
I can reach out to our legal department about this. I'll let you guys know what they say.
Thanks,
Thank
Jess.
you much, Jess.
Okay.
Any other items? So this week for me is just a push on making sure that we can identify, all the working groups and let people know ahead of time what categories they're in, and someone's unhappy or whatever. Hopefully we can satisfy everyone's desires, but that's the most important thing. And then figuring out how you guys will communicate, as soon as possible on beginning that work. And again, we're all resources here for one another. But if anything is a bottleneck or things are not happening, I'll check in from time to time to see how things are going, just to make sure that we're kind of hitting our milestones. All right. Fair enough.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing further, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I actually do have something I'd like to mention.
Sure.
Sorry to cut short the end of the meeting. But there was a county meeting about their broadband initiative that I attended, and they are performing a survey of internet availability. This is something that Jess has seen as well. And so they're starting those gears turning. I'm not sure how relevant it is, especially given our time frame or your time frame. Because it takes a while to do a survey, but they do seem to have a process in motion to survey the entire county, including the city, for broadband and high-speed availability, which might help with any future projects of this group as well.
Luke, do you know offhand who it is that's heading that up for the county?
I think that's the PSC. I think they hired CEE. I have a document here, or ECC.
Okay.
What's the PS Public Service Commission?
Yeah, I think that was their meeting, and that they're doing a survey for the whole county.
Okay.
So that might be outside our time frame, like I mentioned earlier, but it might be good to be aware of.
Okay.
If I can jump in, I think that's actually a statewide initiative. The governor put out a press release not too long ago announcing that they'd be doing a mapping survey across the state with a number of different things. So if I can share that with the group after, if you'd all like to get eyes on it. They also launched a website that allows a survey to be done to check, broadband speed and availability, which is all in the press release, but I'll get that out to the group after this.
Well, Jeff, I think Josh had sent that out earlier, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, Josh, was that the same one?
I think so. Yeah, it should be back in the. That sounds like it's the same one.
Okay.
But if anyone didn't see it,
That has the link on there for testing your download speed and talks about getting the map out there.
Just interestingly, 8 years ago or more, the New York State Broadband Office had all of that available, maps that you could download. So I hope they're not reinventing the wheel. They're just trying to do an update and an upgrade on a bunch of stuff, because a lot of that was available, which they had actually gotten from the intermediaries who were providing the services across the state. So we'll see. It's interesting though.
Timing. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to bring up?
Any agenda items for the next meeting?
Not that I can think of at the moment, other than I'll probably circle back just to we want to make sure we follow up with legal, right?
Yep.
On that. Jessica will make sure that we know about the platform.
Right, the Google sites.
Yeah, Google sites. And then just, I'm going to explore a little bit about just available resources to do the different things that the commission may need to do over time. So we'll start with that. I'm sure we'll add other items as we go. And if anybody has any ideas in terms of agenda items, just forward them to me directly, and that'd be helpful. And then I'll make sure I get with Caitlin and Craig. All right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you all much. And you should be hearing from us ASAP as soon as possible.
Great.
Ira, feel better.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Rest, right.
I'll be better by next week, I'm sure. Thank you all.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Yep.
Take care.
Motion to adjourn.
Yep. Okay. Bye-bye.